to the Daily Talk Show with host Rich Vernadeau. This is the Saturday, October 13th, 2018 edition of Daily Talk.
She is one of my repeat guests. She's an author. She has a new book coming out, Plymouth Plantation. It's actually a prequel to one of her other books. And Wendy's going to be our guest on Saturday night, October the 27th. And I so much look forward to Wendy Rose Williams' return. She's a great guest, and I have really enjoyed having her on past shows. And all of the past Wendy Rose Williams shows have also been turned into YouTube videos, so you can watch them there on YouTube, and I would encourage you to do so. And Wendy Rose Williams has a heavy presence on Facebook as well, and she's easy to find. Her book is on Amazon for sale, and I would urge and encourage you to Google Wendy Rose Williams and to go to Amazon and to look up her books. And I would encourage you, of course, to be here 2 weeks from tonight and to call in and talk directly with Wendy and ask her questions. She'll be discussing her book and a number of other things too, reincarnation, past lives, hypnotic regression, of which she is a professional in that field. So remember, 2 weeks from tonight, Saturday, October the 27th, the return of Wendy Rose Williams to Daily Talk. Now, any minute, our guest, Jerry Rose, should be arriving. And again, I'm looking forward to his arrival. To talk a little bit about him, he has a course out, which we'll be talking about tonight, called Not My Economics. And it is Socially Responsible Self-Managed Profit Sharing, SSP. It is a business model. He has started something called the Company of One Plus, TCO Plus, PCO Plus. And this is geared at independent entrepreneurs, indie entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs. He intends to make capitalism work again, and Jerry Ash's new approach to all of this is something he'll be talking about tonight and he'll be explaining tonight. One of the things which his process, program, concept will do is to reinvent human resources. He is currently looking for a head of intellectual capital, human, knowledge, and social for the company. So anybody out there who feels qualified, look Jerry Ash up on Facebook and go into We Are the Market Force. And, of course, you can go into Daily Talk, too, and you can find easy ways to contact and communicate with Jerry Ash through Facebook and to contact him to find out about what he's doing. I want to talk a little bit about Jerry Ash while we wait for him to call in. First of all, Jerry Ash was an assistant professor at Morgantown, West Virginia. He was also a reporter at Fairmont. So, I mean, this guy has wonderful credentials, fantastic credentials. And the guy is just absolutely fantastic. And so Jerry, when you arrive, I'm talking about you right now. Our listeners are finding out that you were a reporter at Fairmont and that you were a journalism and political science major at West Virginia University. A specialist, first class, U.S. Army. He was a former state senator in West Virginia. President and CEO of Nevada Hospital Association. One of the things that his program does, it will help to overcome economic inequality. And I want you to go to the Not My Economics website for more information.
David Knight, North Georgia.
Oh, hi, David Knight. Welcome to the show. Dan David has been on the show before.
when I was dealing with the YouTube crisis, where a lot of the small creators were being demonetized.
Well, back to Michael, the storm Michael, it's absolutely devastating. It's worse than Andrew in '92, which basically rearranged the landscape of South Florida. There is no more Mexico Beach, and the beaches and the Panhandle are basically gone. All the structures are absolutely demolished. The airports are demolished. Most of the aircraft are in disrepair right now, broken in one manner or another. The storm literally took some homes ripped them right off their foundation and blew them down the street like a cardboard box. That's the intensity of the wind. It lingered out in the Gulf for a couple of days as a Category 2, which usually, if you've lived through enough of these as I have, Florida natives look at a storm that's a Category 2 out in the Gulf. Usually at landfall, they tend to downgrade. This one threw everybody by surprise and upgraded it almost to a 5 as it made landfall into the Panhandle, I understand, which is highly unusual. It doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, no joke.
Rich, I have landed.
Good evening. Hello.
I was able to hear you, but you couldn't hear me.
I now can hear you. We now have Jerry Ash on the line.
I'm so sorry for the delay.
Well, we're just glad to have you here, Jerry.
I gave everybody a
bit of an introduction to you and your course, but I'll go ahead and let you just launch right into it.
You don't have to repeat that for me, Rich.
By all means.
You don't have to repeat that for me.
Indeed, because you're the expert on this. So go ahead and tell us, Jerry, about your new concept. Describe to us the company of OnePlus and tell us about your course. We'd like to hear about the Not My Economics, all of it.
Well, I can just go on and on about that. How much time do we have?
We have an hour, at least about 45 minutes of that we still have left, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I've spent a lifetime in jobs in which my interest was as an advocate. I was always an advocate for something. And in the last 20 years, I have gotten into being an advocate for people who are on the wrong side of economics, who are the losers rather than the winners, the many, not the few. And one of the things that caused me to do was to think more seriously about Mother Jones. And so about 7 or 8 years ago, I published a novel based on the life of Mother Jones. Used the novel as a means because there were many stories, many books written about Mother Jones over the years, a stack of them. But the full story was never told because there was so much of what happened to her that was not documented. So anyway, I did that, and in the process, it occurred to me that she had spent 65 years, I'm talking about 150 years ago, she had spent 65 years of her life fighting against unrestrained capitalism. Those were her words, her very words. And yet she died having won very few battles, and she lost the war. I'll tell you why she lost the war. She died in 1930 in the middle of the Great Depression. And so I thought, my gosh, what are we going to do? Obviously, we can't just simply complain about our lot. We've got to actually do something about it. And so first of all, I started We Are the Market Force as a place where we could talk about economics, not just all of politics, but economics. And it's over 5 years old now, and it's just full of politics and complaints and concerns, but no solutions. And so I decided that I needed to take all of that I know and all of the talent that I have, the experiences that I have, and put it to work actually looking for a solution. And I created an online course called Not My Economics. Well, this was a project. It took a lot of writing. There were about 35 essays in there in lieu of lectures. And in the process, well, first of all, it starts out doing the same thing we're doing in the market force. We're pointing at the problem. And we have to point at the problem, and we have to understand the problem before we can solve it. Well, in the process, it became obvious to me that part of the problem, maybe most of it, certainly we're at the root of the problems, whether it's our fault or not, lies with us, not with them, at the grassroots, where economics begins. And so as the course progressed and I began looking for solutions, it's divided into 4 sections, and the first section is 13 essays of various consequences of the dark side of economics. And then on the second section, we get into what I call the yellow zone, and here we put all that aside, try to put it out of our minds, and start thinking positively about how we can ourselves as individuals, how we can solve the problem. And already I'm saying you can't do that just by getting online and complaining about your lot or pointing at other people or criticizing other people. We've got to find a way to actually solve the problem. Well, in the process of thinking, in the process of putting together more essays, more lectures, if you will,
yes,
I began looking for the answer, and the answer was this: I have a course here in which I'm asking people to change the way they work. But the problem is, there's nothing out there. There's no the environment out there. There's no business out there in which they could actually change the way they work because of the business model. And the business model is one that was developed using the military model 250 years ago. And the military model is a top-down command and control model. And I can't tell students how to be independent workers and go out into an environment in which there is no place for them to work like that. So it was obvious we needed a different business model. And that then led to this thing that you mentioned before. And I always put the word disruptive in it. Disruptive in that it disrupts the old economic and the old business model. It's a disruptive, socially responsible, self-managed, profit-sharing business model. Now, I'm doing all the talking, and I want to stop at that point and give you a chance to ask questions.
Well, Dan, being a former economics professor yourself, what question might you have for Jerry?
Well, I'm listening to this, and I guess, I'd like to hear more explanation. First of all, you mentioned something about the military and the way they do things. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? So myself, and the rest of the people listening might be able to further understand how that works, or how you perceive that work.
Well, I know a great deal about that. I'm a veteran, and I also read a lot about how the military works these days, and it doesn't work like capitalism works anymore. Capitalism designed itself around the military model of command and control, but in fact the military doesn't work that way anymore, certainly not to the extent that capitalists work. But it is all the ideas and the top-down model, all the ideas are in the boardroom or among the managers, and none of the ideas are down on the assembly line. Let's say if we're talking about Detroit, where people are actually putting the product together, and they have ideas too. And in the old model, they don't get the chance to use what they know. And if they did, there would be no reward for it, because you're not this is what you know.
I've got a comment.
Okay, David.
As you're talking and you're saying that the upper brass gets to choose how the product's put together, and the bottom rung people don't get to come up with their ideas, and pretty much when it comes to putting together a product, they don't get to put the product together according to their idea. I know one company based out of Atlanta. And crap, it slipped my memory. That back in the, I want to say they stopped it around the 60s, but they gave their employees an hour every day to work on ideas for the company and put forth the ideas. And I want to say it's a big military. They build aircraft for the military, and it's based out of Atlanta. But they did great. I want to say it's not Bowie. It's a real big company. Based out of Atlanta. And
David, did they have the rewards or incentives for the employees who came up with ideas?
And yes, they did. They highly got rewarded.
And if
the company did decide to use their idea, they've got I forget what was some of the rewards, from promotion to other rewards.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff actually made it to the moon.
Yeah.
Some of the ideas actually made it to the moon. And where I work, we do the lower rungs. If we have a better idea than what the structured method is to putting the product together, we do get it. And every now and then we'll get a good job, or